All right, welcome TJ Sullivan to our program. TJ is an Emmy Award winning and Annie Award nominee, having supervised and directed animation projects at Warner Brothers, Lucasfilm, Omation, as well as Dreamworks Animation. TJ, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks so much. Happy to be here. It's great to see you.
TJ, for anyone listening or watching today, can you give us a brief intro, sort of like how you got to what some of your career or history and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure thing. I actually started out many years ago working in doing pharmaceutical videos for medical companies way back. And I knew I always wanted to get into animation. And around that time, Toy Story had just come out. So that was kind of the big thing. And these pharmaceutical companies, medical companies were really getting in early on computer animation. So I started there, and I was years later, I really appreciated it more because it was such a small studio, and I had to start out learning. I kind of had to wear multiple hats and kind of learn everything. So I had to do storyboarding, character design at the same time, learning 3D animation and how to animate and move characters. And it was a lot of on the fly learning. And eventually I decided I really wanted to go to California and really get into the entertainment industry. So we packed up the truck, moved to California, and I was very lucky to be able to jump onto some smaller effects companies, effects houses out there, and then worked with a buddy for a while on our own project doing character animation, and then was able to get onto the Barnyard movie for Omation. One of the art directors there had seen our work online and had contacted us and asked us to be supervisors on the feature, which, for young guys in their 20s to be able to be an animation supervisor, it was a dream come true. It was so much fun. And what a great group of people in South Orange County. Couldn't ask for a better location.
Yeah.
And from there, I really learned, not only really got more into being an animator, but learning how to supervise and learning to eventually become a leader. And as I worked through the years, I was lucky enough to work for WB as an animation supervisor, working on a Batman show, which was awesome. And then I worked at DreamWorks for about 8 years, which the experience I got in the multiple roles was just amazing. Again, in another studio where the culture was just so supportive and creative. It was a great place to learn and kind of play in those worlds. And then eventually I worked up to being a supervising director, which was great. And then we eventually moved back with the family in the East Coast. And luckily I've been able to continue to be able to direct and supervise and direct and board and animate from here remotely.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that on your website, you were like that triple threat, right? Director, animator, storyboard guy.
Yeah.
Is there one that speaks mostly to, I know some guys really love to board, or some guys really love to animate.
Yeah.
Is there one that, you really would gravitate to if you couldn't do the others?
Yeah, it always goes back to animation. I love animation. I love animating. I love supervising it. And one of the most fun things I did was when we were working on Batman as an animation supervisor, because I really had to act out a lot of those moves. So there's a lot of live action reference material of me jumping off couches and rolling into karate moves and and blocks and things.
Right.
But I really enjoyed it. I had a friend actually that had reached out like, hey, would you mind just reviewing my animation? I'd love to get your take on it. And we started to get into it, and I was enjoying helping to critique his stuff and kind of helping to make his reel stronger. And it was so much fun to get back into that. I mean, he was like, what can I give you for this? I'm like, no, man, I have the time and I'm enjoying it.
Right.
It was a lot of fun. So that's always the one I gravitate back to.
Yeah, I can remember years ago, a couple of my first movies I worked in and around helping staff them, and seeing animators with cameras on or recording their own facial expressions and then building these libraries of expressions, and even a director taking an animator into a room and, as you're saying, physically acting out the scene.
Yeah.
And then they would just shoot it over and over and over again until they went, that's it, you know. And so I love the fact that it was going to be digital in the end, but they were really doing a live action shoot,
Yeah.
you know, that would then be replicated digitally. So it's, I
Yeah.
don't know if a lot of people see that, you know, unless they're in the studio. It's a
And
cool
what's
part of the
really
craft.
been interesting, it is, and it's also something I've tried to encourage on teams that I've worked with, you know, for people to kind of get up out of your chair, try, you know, maybe if you're stuck on seeing it in your head, get up,
Yeah.
get in front of a mirror or record yourself doing it. Not only as an animator, but, you know, as a board artist, if you have the time, if you're trying to get a certain angle or a certain pose, the best reference is that live action reference of yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, and we on Madagascar, A Little Wild, we actually went a step further, and we had a lot of choreography. So we actually had to direct a lot of the live action choreography shoots with our dancers and our choreographer, and then we'd edit that together, and that was reference for our board team and also our animation team, which was overseas, so they could see exactly how these moves need to happen. So it's invaluable to have that.
Yeah. I mean, as you know very well, that communication of, especially if you're working with other studios,
Yeah.
you know, because every person comes with their own kind of creative library in their mind of how this could. I could see shows going off the rails unless you build these, you know, expression libraries. And I can remember working on a movie years ago where one of the fellows, like, he built so many expressions for the faces because a good chunk of the movie was going over to Asia.
Yeah.
And he said, like, luckily I don't have to explain everything, but visually I have to explain it. So he worked late into the night. He was really committed to making sure that, you know, it was going to carry the same theme and the same, you know, each character had to stay in character as opposed to someone's interpretation on the character.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes, to go back to it, sometimes it's easier, you know, or it's even a little faster rather than having to draw out each thing, is to do that. Let me jump on video for you guys, because it's going to be a lot easier for you to see what I'm doing rather than me trying to, you know, to describe it.
Yeah. Great.
Especially when you're dealing with all those overseas studios, when there might be a language barrier or even a cultural barrier, or if you're taking something from 2D into 3D, that camera move might not exactly translate how exactly you want it to. So being able to, either you can rough it out in CG, or you can do something as simple as grabbing your web camera, setting up some action figures on your table and go, okay, this is the camera move.
Right. You know? Right. Cool. I'm just curious, in all the shows you've worked on in your career, is there any of them that sort of stay near and dear to your heart? Is there something you reflect back on and go, that was an amazing, either amazing moment or amazing scene or a great team or anything like that?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I've worked with some really incredible teams on some very fun shows. I think each show I've been on has its moment. If I had to pick some, I'd have to say Dragons was just such a fun world to play in. To be able to take those characters and continue their story. And, you know, like, I had a moment where the biggest thing for me was we were going to have, our episode had the moment where Hiccup and Astrid kissed for the first time. You know, it was huge. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to, you know, play with this. And it was something that, you know, kids loved. Everyone knew Dragons. Even when I worked on, there was a preschool show called Rescue Riders after that. For a year or two, several years after that show came out, kids, friends that I had known, their kids were just getting to that age and still seeing these shows, and they loved seeing those younger dragons. It was so rewarding to hear that. I think on Barnyard too, one of the things was so cool was it was the first time I was in the theater. There was a kid sitting next to me, and he laughed at a shot that I animated. And I'm like, yes, like, he got it. It's so awesome. It felt so cool. The crew that we had on Madagascar, A Little Wild, was just one of the creative crews and supportive crews I had ever worked with before. And it was such a transformative show for me, seeing that moving forward, these are the type of, you know, this is the crew I want to be with, because everyone is kind of, we're all working hard. We're all working late hours. It's very stressful, but everyone's kind of supporting each other to get through it. You know, we're all doing this. Why not try and have fun while we're doing it and still feel like, don't be afraid to fail, because there'll be someone there to help support you through this.
Right.
That's something that moving forward, I'm going to take with me on every other project now, is to try and make sure that we're all, collaborating together as a team, and help trying to promote that sense of, we're all part of this one team.
Excellent. Great. I want to, let's just take a minute. Let's run your director reel, and so everyone can kind of have a look, and then we'll jump back into a conversation after that. Let's
Cool.
give it a minute. All right.
No! Shoot, boys! Hang on, bud!
I'll take you to Vigo myself.
You guys stay behind and put out these fires. Come on, bud. All right, gang. Let's take a little trip, shall we?
I'm not R2! Nobody's talking to you, trash can.
It could really be anybody. I mean, except us, of course.
Of course.
Make your move, turncoat.
Just what a provocateur would say.
Provocateur. Good word. Well used.
My Thor, that descended into the absurd rather quickly.
As you can tell, I love
I'll
comedy.
take that bag of lenses, boy.
Look, whatever Krogan and Vigo are paying you.
Paying me? Those two? I pay them.
So even these dragon dance moves, we had choreography for. So there was one of the dancers that was doing those moves. Trying to translate that into dragon moves was interesting.
Huh. Do people make fun of each other while they're working out these dance moves?
No, it's a lot of fun. It's a good time. There's a lot of
I've got the gut to prove it. Those are extra guts. Kids!
Excellent.
Yeah, so a lot of my stuff has always been comedy related. Like, I love getting in an editorial and playing around, tweaking comedic timing, finding that perfect frame. But Dragons was great because it really let me play around with not only comedy, but drama and action as well. Like, being able to do those action sequence was a great learning experience for me, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
Right.
That is a really old video.
Yeah, you still have to. I stopped.
That's
to play
way
with
back when I was just getting into animation, and I had modeled that ship in CG, and I was very proud of it at the time.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
All right, I'll stop sharing.
But that's back in the day when I had to, unfortunately, I haven't done as much general stuff, but that's back then. I was pretty much a generalist and really understood every single part of the computer program. Like, from
Yeah.
effects to lighting to animation and rigging. And
You know,
again, it's helped me to this day, especially moving into even supervising director roles, animation roles, because you're understanding everything that goes on in the pipeline and why this needs to be done. And also you can come up easily with creative solutions, like with TV budgets. We don't have the budget for this. We can't do this. Well, I know a way that, that we can try and, get the same bang for your buck, get something to look good on screen, but be cheaper. So it's really
and don't you feel like I can remember 20 odd years ago working in a video game studio, and it seemed like there were more generalists.
Yeah.
People came out of school knowing a little bit about everything. And sometimes in smaller teams, they pretty much would take an asset right through to lighting.
Yeah.
And then I think as the tech changed and the studios got larger, the specialization happened where you're a lighter, you're an animator, you're a modeler. The departments got bigger. And so we saw an awful lot of that sort of more compartmentalization or fragmentation of what people were doing.
Yeah.
And I think, some of the guys I knew became CG supervisors because they were that MacGyver, right? They knew a bit about scripting and a bit about this and a bit about that. And they could also move from department to department and be able to talk the language enough on a general level to be able to, pull things together.
And I, like I was saying, I think the benefit of that is your brain is kind of already wired to go, well, if there's a problem here, I know there's a solution somewhere else that we can figure out a way to get it done, rather than just coming up against a brick wall and not knowing really where to go from there. You can at least know the people that you have to reach out to. I need to bring you in to help us out with this. Maybe you can come up with a solution for this. It's helpful to know all those aspects. The other side of that, though, is when you are focused on just one thing, you get really good at that. That specific thing, and be an amazing animator or amazing board artist.
Yeah.
Which is I think over the years that could be something that I could say, because I've been able to do these more leadership positions, I haven't done as much of the more general stuff. There's stuff like I'm not sure if I would be skilled to do anymore, but I would have the understanding behind it of what to do.
Right. Yeah, I can think of a few people who became. I remember interviewing a guy years ago who said, "I'm a fur and feathers guy. I just do fur and feathers." Yeah. I'm like, really? And he said, yeah, man. He said, think of all the shows that have fur and feathers. I've been able to make a career just being that guy. And I'm like, yeah, you might want to pick lighting or another alternate, like something. Yeah. Because at some point there's going to be, a bunch of movies with scales. Yeah. No fur, no feathers.
Right.
Well,
I've always been able to, because I've enjoyed animation so much, I've kind of been able to bounce back and forth between directing and animating. And when I have time, even keep doing, I always wanted to be a cartoonist. Even before I wanted to be an animator, I wanted to be a cartoonist. So whenever downtime I've had where I've had breaks, I've tried to go back to, I had an online comic strip for a while that I keep going back to, but I've started some other stuff in the meantime. But that's always been something that I found has always been a great asset, is still being able to go back to that stuff.
TJ, I'm curious from the perspective of being a director. I've worked on projects where the script is locked and the team says, stick to the script exactly. And other ones where there's been much more creative sort of leeway. So I'm curious from your perspective, has there been a wide range, or have you been able to impact, the story and the script a fair bit? Give me an idea on sort of.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's been a fairly wide range, and a lot of times it just comes down to, it'll come down to, on TV shows anyway, it could be the executives in charge, or it could be the showrunners that are in place. They might have a specific vision they want for this show, and being able to maintain that vision, we have to stick within these boundaries, which is great. It's great for someone to have that vision in their head, because that gives you as an artist, a direction to go in. Like, okay, here's my parameters. Now I know what we're doing. I know some people sometimes people can complain, oh, we have these limits, we have these blah, blah, blah. These limits just lead to being creative. You'll find creative solutions with these limits in place. Sometimes something you never would have thought of, haven't been able to do. That said, it's also nice to have, if there are times where you're able to give your input And I think you just always have to approach it with a level of just respect for the work that's in front of you. Don't just go, oh, I have a better idea, I'm gonna do my own thing. You know, there's a reason that these stories are written the way they are, and there's a vision that people want to see. So it's important to present that. That said, if you have a creative idea, you know, hopefully you will have the people above you that will, you know, be willing to have you at least come in and pitch that idea, or, you know, just be respectful about it and say, hey, I have a thought, we don't have to go with it, but I just wanted to let you know, like, hey, do you think it would be funny if we did this? I think in the end, it's always led to being a lot more creative. Great ideas can kind of come from anywhere. Even if it's something you go, no, we can't do that, or it's too expensive. There's a kernel of an idea in there somewhere, and you'll be able to lead to something else. I think those shows have been the ones where I know I felt the most fulfilled by, and I've come out of it going, man, it was so awesome. You know, what everything we're able to do on that show.
Right. Excellent. And I'm also curious, when you're, you know, working with a team of animators, you know, coaching younger, newer people into the craft and the trade. You know, are there any sort of nuggets that you would offer someone? Let's say they're fairly new into the industry. What would be some advice you might give to somebody like that?
Man, that's great. I would say just be open and be curious. Be open to the ideas you're being presented with, but don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone. I think, like I was saying earlier, don't be afraid to get up out of your chair and act something out at your desk, or go into the bathroom in front of a mirror, and act something out that way. I also wouldn't be afraid to give your opinion. Just understand your situation that's around you. I think it's okay to throw an idea around there, but if you're getting that feeling like this isn't the time to do that, maybe do it later. You know, swing by someone's office or go to your lead and go, what do you think about this idea? I think also, as an artist, I would say, don't get too down on yourself for getting a critique. Being critiqued is a way of life. It's the only way you get better. And, you know, as much as you might disagree with it, sometimes you're going to find that, like, wow, they were right. This is stronger. So that's why I was saying, like, just be open. Be open to the critique, and try not to get too down on yourself. We all go through it. We all have opinions, but just be open. And it's kind of like improv, where you kind of are always going, just, you know, yes to the next thing that's presented, and kind of go with it, you know?
Right. Cool. Let's see. I don't know if you can see it. I put your animation demo reel up on the screen. Let's run that too.
All right. See, just some of this footage is a little old. It's been a while.
Sure.
It's some of my favorite stuff.
We'll run this.
Bravo, Batman. Checkmate. Shall we play again?
That was one of those things I definitely acted out on camera first before I animated it.
Yeah, that's just a bunch of coyotes. What's the big deal, you know?
Never come back.
Sorry about that. Frankie's out of hand. The Nikes. What was the make again?
Yeah, I really should go, Mr. Jordan Air. Wrong number.
Yeah, you could have made a difference had you been there for him, but you weren't, were you?
Your mind's gone, woman. Where did it go? I don't know.
My dear Igor, I happen to be the Dean of Anatomy at a world-renowned school of medicine.
Now! Ask me yes! Woo! Follow me!
So call me maybe. Hey, I just met you.
Does anyone else realize we got others?
That last bit, the Batman stuff was interesting. I think Frozen had come out just before that, and I was so inspired by the animation in Frozen, especially that first big number with Elsa. And I remember going back and trying to take some of our characters, and I'm like, I gotta animate these. And that was that magpie character that song was popular at the time. So I decided, I came up with this whole thing. And by the time I was rolling off the production, I think I just sent it around to the crew like, here, I've been working on this, enjoy. So I threw it on the reel.
It's great. I mean, it's a real earworm song too, right? That's it's so catchy.
I'll try listening to it, over and over and over while you're, animating to these things for lip sync. Yeah. And there is, it's funny because I started out in Lightwave back in the day, and moved up through Softimage and then Maya. And it's funny how technology has changed. Someone said to me the other day with my resume, like, you might want to pull Softimage and Lightwave off the resume because they're not really used anymore. And you're like,
it's hard to part with that, right? It's like, but when part of your blood.
When we were animating, some of that stuff wasn't even IK. It wasn't. It was like literally bones, and you had to rotate, every single one back then. You didn't have the freedom of that IK, or we didn't use it, or something for some reason. But
a good friend of mine's an art director, and they recently got into building a studio, and he said it's very strange that the team used to be 45 or 50 or 60 people, and he said now you can buy libraries of assets and they skin them. So he said a large part of the production process that we used to do by hand has been automated, or I can remember running around Alcatraz with an art director years ago, taking footage of all the rust and decay on the island, because we were building a combat game where these guys got to bust out of sort of very industrial prison. And so, he had this massive camera with a huge lens, and he was going around taking shots of just the rust and the decay on the island. And I had good fun with it because everyone had these headsets on, with the audio programs. So you can do these automated tours of Alcatraz.
Right. Yep.
But my art director, Frank, had wandered off to shoot things that weren't on the tour. And so occasionally you would see tourists go, what's that guy doing? And they would follow him like a group down some area because they thought, well, he's taking like a shot with a huge lens. That's got to be important. And you could see them rewinding their recordings, trying to figure out what did we miss? Why is that guy taking? So I had a lot of fun with that. I was saying, he's got his own interests, and don't bother him. He's a bit of a savant, and he had the headset on so he couldn't hear me. I was making fun. I was had a good time with it, making jokes about him. But again, now you just order a stock library of rust, decay, prison scenes, whatever. It's but back in the day, as they had to be crafted one by one. You had to go and shoot reference everywhere. And we were in San Francisco, I think, for GDC at the time. So we thought, let's go to Alcatraz and spend 3 hours out there and shoot a bunch of stuff. Well, it's so close, it's right there. So
I mean, that's some great reference for textures out there. That's awesome.
But
to what you were saying though, I mean, back there now you can buy rigs. You can buy fully rigged characters online if you just want to animate. Which you couldn't. You had to build them on your own, and that it used to frustrate me because I knew how to build them. I knew how to rig them. I could not wait to animate, and I was just like, I can't wait to. I'm done. Modeling all this. And I started to get into animating it,
Yeah. Oh, I remember a big brouhaha about we were building one of the riggers was building a quadruped rig for a bunch of stuff. And it took quite a long time,
I'll bet.
And the animation team was sort of like, how hard can it be? And the rigging team's like, you don't know what you're talking about, because it's not just a quad rig for one animal. It has to be adaptable to multiple skeletons. And they were trying to build this phenomenal rig that would be highly flexible and highly adaptable to all range of critters. It became sort of it was talked about a lot. Let's just say that in the studios. The executive team, who I don't even know if they knew what was going on, but they knew something's not working out there, and it's taking a long time. And people are grumbling. People are they're talking about it far too much.
We had something similar too on both Barnyard and Madagascar, I want to say, because a lot of those characters were four-legged, but they go up onto two legs to act. So of course your first, everyone wants the full rig that can do everything, where you can go from thing. But then you don't realize that thing is going to be really heavy, very time-consuming. It might not look that good, so you get used to going, well, let's do the cheaper version. Let's have the two legs. And you find creative ways to cut. So it's almost seamless, between rigs with characters getting up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But again, it goes back to what you're saying. Unless you kind of have gone through and have that general experience, you might not have that knowledge of, okay, well, I know, we can easily do that. There's a way we can kind of, cut around this to make it work.
Yeah, and I think it's as production gets tighter and tighter. I think that budgets have not gotten bigger over time; they've gotten smaller. So it's always that sort of thing of how do we cheat this? And I can remember a 2D movie. It was actually supposed to be a 3D movie, but they were cheating it with 2D cheats wherever they could to save time. And creative camera angles to hide the cards that they'd use. To building a 3D set with 2D cards and stuff, and just mimicking. God forbid someone move the camera, because then you catch the edge of the card and the illusion's blown. Like, we got to reshoot that. So.
I mean, back in the day when we used to, HD was just kind of coming around, but we're still doing everything in 4:3. But they wanted to make sure that we were shooting for HD just in case. And there were things that you would put right on the edge of frame going, if this ever goes into HD, people are going to find this hilarious. But if no one ever sees, they're only going to see it in 4:3. Stuff could still be out there.
Same challenge with stereo, that sort of thing. Oh, you want a second camera? It blows everything up now. We're now shooting through a branch that we didn't shoot through before, and so on.
I think the benefit, though, right now that I think people have is not only like being able to download rigs, but you have a lot of information online, not only a lot of programs, but a lot of information coming from experienced people online. You can go out like something, like you have a lot of the animation sites that are out there. When I was just getting an animation, you couldn't jump on an animation website and learn how to get from experienced professionals how to do this. I really think that's a huge advantage right now. To a point now where, I find myself still wanting to grow. You can always learn from your peers and learn things. Like, I like going on those sites because there might be something that I haven't picked up along the way, and vice versa. There's always something to continue learning and continue picking up.
Now we've got Unreal and the whole the visual effects world has those volume screens. It's incredible. Changed the games substantially. And I'm also curious, like, where does that lead another 5 or 10 years down the road? What do we end up with?
We'll have holodecks in no time. Star Trek holodecks.
Exactly. Food replicators. That's what I'm after.
Exactly.
So curious, TJ, just where would you like to go? It's a new year starting soon, 2024. Are there things you have on your sort of goalposts or things that you'd like to do in the future? What's that look like for TJ?
I mean, I hopeful to be able to continue doing, just working with, I think, like I was saying before, working with just really wonderful groups of creative people, and being able to collaborate with those people, I think has been really a big thing the past couple of shows I've been on is the people you're working with. And at the same time, wanting to keep growing myself, continue directing shows, supervising, directing, leading into, maybe show running, I think would be, a lot of fun at some point. I've been very fortunate with the people I've worked with and have helped kind of teach me how to become a leader. I'm at a point now where I want to, the people that are just getting into the industry, you kind of want to impart that and go, it's okay. We're all here together. We're all trying to move forward together through this, and help collaborate with those teams. I'd love to continue work. Like I said, I love comedy. I love, action and drama. Comedy is my wheelhouse. I'd love to continue playing in that area. I'm just putting out cool, fun stuff.
Great. Good. All right. I was going to say, for anyone listening or watching, if they want to find you, they can obviously find you on LinkedIn. And also your website is tj-sullivan.com. There's plenty of stuff up there, your demo reels for boarding and animation directing and so on. So I just want to wrap up. If there's any final thoughts you wanted to share, but please go ahead. Otherwise we could.
No, I mean, if for anyone watching, just hang in there. It's tough times right now with everything that's been going on. We're just coming out of the strikes. We're all kind of looking around right now. Just hang in there. It's a cycle. We go through it every couple of years, and it'll come back around, and just hang in there.
Yeah, excellent. Good advice. Thank you, TJ, so much, and we'll hope to connect again at some point down the road. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Right back at you.